What's good, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Go ahead, pull up a seat. It's time to have a little chat. Many of you know that I've been wanting to get my hands on this game called GrayZone Warfare, and I've been super fortunate to not only be accepted into the VIP program, but also be given the chance to play the game in its current state. I'm going to be covering everything that I love about it so far, things that I think need improvement or need changing before launch if that happens soon, and clarify some things that this game isn't, in my opinion. Plus, I'm going to give a statement on the select few that want to assume the worst about this game because they open this up to only creators. And if all this sounds good and you enjoy what you see today, be sure to sub to the channel. Okay, let's get on with it. To kick things off, I want to start off by addressing some of the Tarkov killer or Tarkov clone comments that people love to spew towards this game. For some context, I'm in the camp that if you pin the franchise killer tag on a game, you're setting it up for failure. That being said, this game is not a Tarkov killer. I genuinely believe that the only way that Tarkov will ever die is if Battlestate kills it. Just because we have a game that's competing in the same space as Tarkov does not mean that this is going to kill Tarkov. There are aspects of Tarkov that you can see in this game, like the weapon mechanics, the PvEVP concept, even though that's been done outside of Tarkov for a while. The quest system is kind of similar. The inventory system looks kind of similar, even though Tarkov got that, I think, from DayZ. But with all of these things considered, does this mark it as a Tarkov clone? No. If this game does it better than Tarkov, will it kill Tarkov? No. I'll also go ahead and say this. This is not an extraction shooter because even though you can fly out of landing zones on a helicopter, you're never leaving the map. In Tarkov, when you extract, the first thing you'll typically go to is the main menu, right? In this game, you go back to the base, stock up on ammo, turn in quests, do whatever the hell you gotta do while staying on the same server. And if you're wanting something to compare this to, take Ghost Recon Wildlands and mix it with Deadside. That's probably the best way I can go about describing it. All in all, there are aspects of Tarkov that inspired this game. I'm not gonna deny it, even the devs don't deny it. But it's a bit disingenuous to call it a clone and a bit too ridiculous to call it a Tarkov killer. Alright, checking that off the list, let's talk about what I did like. First off, and this is going to depend on who you ask, but this game feels really beginner friendly to those who are either brand new to these kinds of games or those that have been dabbling for a while. The quests in my eyes do a good job of providing both lore and clues while not entirely holding your hand. Also, the quests make more sense. I'm not having some weird ass bush Wookiee telling me to go out into the middle of the woods, dehydrate myself with a jar of mayonnaise, and kill 5 scabs with a sniper from exactly 20 meters away. Everything's simple, it makes sense, poses a little bit of a challenge, that's all I could ever ask for. What I also like is that there's no time limit to get any of this shit done. If you want to spend extra time doing other tasks or looking for other points of interest and landing zones, you can do that without fear of running down the timer. Now, depending on the faction you choose, these quests may be different. I'm not 100% sure because out of the 3 factions that I was presented, I chose Mithras. Each faction has their own backstory and own starting areas that slowly expand out into other territories where factions can meet you. I'll touch on this a little bit later, but as of right now, if you want to play with a friend, you've got to select the same faction as them. If you manage to do so, this game becomes so much fun when shit kicks off. You're fighting 8 different scavs while hiding in an office, bullets are coming in from everywhere, your fucking partner's in a coma because he got melee rocked by an AK. All of this just adds so much pressure and it is such a fun thing to experience. Which brings me to another thing that I'm enjoying at the moment. There really isn't a presence of the dreaded Tarkov loop, and what I mean by that is say you die. Well, now you gotta go back to the menus, you gotta build a loadout, wait for your friends, pray to whatever god or deity you believe in that they grabbed your gear, have them get geared back up, go back into the raid, and then cross your fingers none of that shit happens again. But in GrayZone, if you die, sure, it sucks. But you go back to your base. All you gotta do from there is call the chopper, go to the closest LZ, find your body, and boom, you have all your stuff back. I can see this being more of a benefit in joint operations, the game's PvE mode, but in the mode that pretty much everyone is going to be playing, the PvEVP mode, people want a presence of gear fear, so seeing how they'll make it more risky going forward from the starting areas is going to be a little bit interesting. And not to say that there isn't a presence of gear fear, it just doesn't hit you until like the later stages of the quests. One more thing that I want to touch on, and this is just such a minute thing compared to everything else in the game that I could cover, but I love the fact that you can open your map at any time to check what POIs you have, what LZs you're at, and even see who's in the area with you. Seriously, if you hit M on your keyboard, there will be a map that you can see on the fly, and this is such a fucking godsend and has avoided so many team killing mistakes, it's unbelievable. Now what I would like to see coming out of this is if you use comma and period to zoom in and out of the minimap. I don't know how y'all feel about that, but hey, I think that'd be a good workaround. I think that's about it so far. You know, everything they've presented to us so far in this test is a good example of what to expect, but also what they can build off of. But now, I gotta play devil's advocate and talk about some of the things that I think they can improve now. First things first, better optimization on AMD is a must-have. I haven't seen this with NVIDIA users, but you can probably see it in the footage from time to time. My shadows will flicker and my performance really isn't that great. I'm pulling on average like 75 to 100 frames, but there are times where this shit tanks to like 30 to 50. Also, when you look through the ACOG, the game looks like it's moving in 30 FPS as well, but I don't know if that's just a game thing or an AMD thing. MadFinger, it's almost there, guys, okay? But if it ships in this state, there's gonna be a lot of complaints. Aside from that, when it comes to the gameplay loop, there's gotta be a faster time to progress from PvE to PvP. I'm still kind of in the beginning quest areas, but I'm slowly breaking out past that into areas where you can see players. And even then, there were times I was going into Namthaven and thought, shit, when am I gonna see a player? And then I did, but I'll get to that in a bit. Keep in mind though that this map is absolutely massive. So I'm wondering if adding more points of interest or quests that force you into these further areas would encourage PvP just a little bit more. And if you're gonna introduce more points of interest, there needs to be better loot aside from like water, tofu cans, and ammo. I understand that they don't want to go too crazy with the variations of loot, and maybe there will be more once the game launches, but it's just too predictable to know what I'm going to get if it's not from a quest. Now, to be fair, you do get these UN LRA crates that can get you some pretty decent loot, and if you go into the military base, you'll find some even better loot, but you'll find piss all in these towns. I've also heard that there needs to be some form of character progression in the form of skills. And guys, I don't mean going overboard like how Tarkov does it, where you have skills that seem to do fuck all at the end of the day, but just keep it basic. Better endurance, better aiming efficiency, maybe have a weapon mastery system in place. Hell, I've got one for you. Create a strength skill. Not only will you be able to carry heavier shit and not have it completely slow you down, but you could also climb and vault over things a lot easier. I do think there needs to be something like that because my dude gets tired after holding his gun in ADS for like 30 seconds. Makes it a really unfun time when I'm trying to lock in aim on a scav and my guy just starts dragging the scope left and right. Now, one more thing that I want to touch on, and something that is actually buzzing all over Twitter and even in the Discord, it's LZ camping. Funny story, so this was the first encounter of PvP that I experienced. Me and my squad were heading over to this underground military base, and as soon as we got off the chopper, we all got lit up and killed. They then say that it was totally by mistake and it was completely unintentional, but we saw the guys in the bushes. It was just too weird to say it was not a coincidence, you know? Surprisingly enough, LZ camping has been something that is becoming more and more of an issue in the current playtest, and keep in mind, this consists of like 95% content creators, and the rest are people that got the keys from other creators. Everyone can agree that this is a pretty shitty way to farm content and play the game in general, but if it's happening now and getting heat now, it's going to get worse once the game launches and random people start doing it. I mean, just look at my boy Crash here.
Oh, there's people here. Right below us. Come on, man. Are you really?
I know you probably got a lot of questions. One of them being, why didn't he shoot his gun? Well, you can't. And if I remember correctly, the devs kind of already know that this is becoming an issue and they're gonna work on it, but I have no idea what that entails. But if you guys are needing some ideas, let me go ahead and give you two. One, allow us to shoot from the helicopter. You know, if they want to take us out from the chopper, make it so they can't get a free kill. Or two, and I like this one a little bit better personally, give the player the chance to change LZs mid-flight. And with that second one, I know there has to be some form of balance that comes with that. So what I would recommend is if you're going to allow players to change LZs mid-flight, allow them to only do it one time. Because if you make it so they keep bouncing from LZ to LZ to LZ, they're never going to land and they're never going to get anything done. There are also players saying that there should be turret guns on the helis that are either AI controlled or player controlled, and you know what, that could work, but if it doesn't automatically boot you off the turret, people are going to abuse that. I've also heard other players say that they should drop smoke screens on the LZ, and honestly, that's a good idea too. I think that's about it I want to say about this, but I'll get to a lot more in my final thoughts, which is happening now. For my final thoughts, I'm actually addicted to this game. One of the many reasons I didn't get into Tarkov in the beginning was because instead of you getting used to the shallow end and then graduating into the deeper end, the game will just throw you into the deep end and then occasionally push your head underwater. And I know some people are into that, obviously, because the game wouldn't be as popular if people weren't. It's just not really my cup of tea. But what I like about GrayZone, and I think what GrayZone has to offer that Tarkov doesn't, is that it's going to walk you through the beginning section of whatever faction you choose and then slowly get you into the PvP areas more and more. But one thing that this game lacks is more points of interest to keep you engaged long enough to ruck to those places. Not only that, but when you do see other factions, we all sort of look the same. Like, I can't tell Mithras from Crimson Shield from really any other PMC group because the gear is damn near identical. If there could be a thing in place where each faction has different gear that was more distinguishable, that would be awesome. In addition, having faction-specific weapons could really influence your decision on what you choose in the beginning, because you won't be able to switch until the game wipes. And if MadFinger doesn't want to do faction integration at the moment with the PvEVP side of the game, Big Fry actually made a really good point that there could be a black market somewhere that deals faction-specific gear and weaponry. Hell, put that sumbitch somewhere accessible to all players, make it like the Continental from John Wick, and have deals go down there. I would also like to see a thing implemented where certain places could be taken over by certain factions, and that faction has to maintain it or else they're gonna lose it, which in turn is going to drive that initiative for more PvP action. Honestly though, the idea of factions is amazing and unique, but there's just a couple things to tweak in order for it to feel the way MadFinger is trying to present it. And you know what? I can actually say that about this whole game. This is probably the best shape I've seen a game be in that does these playtests, and knowing that the devs have been receptive to all forms of feedback and have been super appreciative of our time makes me want to support these guys to the end. But while the current systems of the game work amazingly right now and hopefully better when it goes into 1.0, there's not a lot in place that would keep the average casual fan engaged for long periods of time. But speaking of the average casual fan, there's some that have been a little upset that this was sort of a creators only playtest, and the ones that I want to direct this section of the video to are the ones that have this personal vendetta with creators gaining access to this playtest. Fuck, I've even seen it today on Twitter. You know, some people are commenting saying that they should have opened this to everyone except the shill streamers. You know what, going forward, I think I just need to call myself Shill Blackout. But jokes aside, I really want to get serious with y'all real quick. I get it. Okay, not too long ago, literally like a year or two ago, I would see my friends playtest games that I really wanted to get into. Hell, that was me a few weeks ago when there was a private playtest of this game. I didn't get an invite. I think the main reason being was that they wanted a small size of people to test things out before they expand the openings. Plus, I wasn't even in the VIP program yet, so I wouldn't have gotten in regardless. But at the same time, all people really wanted were creators to actually play the game to see if it was real. Then the videos started coming out, different POVs were shown, opinions were given, people were happy for the most part. But now, they open this up to creators big and small for a whole week to showcase the game to our communities, and the people interested in GrayZone, and the same people have come back to say how pissed they are, claiming that, I guess only creators can give feedback, right? Look, I get that everyone wants to play the game, okay? I would love for everyone to play the game, but that will leave MadFinger susceptible to feedback that, quite frankly, most of it may be destructive and not beneficial in the slightest to the game's development. I've already seen it happen, right? This game is boring, they need to add more stuff, without giving any examples as to what they mean by that. And most of the things that people are saying are being fixed right now in the playtest. Like, none of us expected MadFinger to patch while in the playtest, but they're doing it anyways. If I can be brutally honest here, I think that by the time this game comes out in either early access or even a 1.0 state, these people are going to forget what they were even mad about. And I encourage all of you to see what creators like myself are showcasing as a very good step in the right direction and something MadFinger is going to be building off of. But I do think this game needs a few more months of tender love and care. Maybe another round of playtest, and if everything is good to go, full send it. But now I turn the mic to you. Let me know down below what you think about GrayZone Warfare. And while you're down there, go ahead and smash that like button and exfil that sub button also YouTube can show you my content free of charge. And if you feel like supporting the channel just a tiny bit more for just 99 cents a month, you can get your name on the screen, sneak peeks at what I'm working on, and much more. I want to give a massive shout out to all the members that you see right now. You guys are the reason I continue to do better with my content. Thank you so much. This is Sir Blackout signing off to go play more GrayZone. I don't want this taken away from me, guys. It's just too much fun. Later.